I had, just, it's gonna be. Really don't understand. I'm scared. Okay.
Right. I know the recording in progress got in. No one wants to be recorded.
What?
So that, as
Nobody's
soon as
talking.
recording in progress went on, everybody went like,
Do you know what I do though? I should tell you, I actually do have the IT cut until we start. So
"Ah."
when we post the video, I don't want to listen to myself in the
So our
beginning
public,
either. So.
our off the record comments are actually off the record. All right, it is 7 o'clock. A call to order the October 6th, 2024 October 7th, Parks Recreation and Forestry Commission meeting. Kylie, do you have the roll?
Yes, it looks like all members are present except for Arya. So, and I don't see Arya on.
I've seen them walk in
Oh,
back, so maybe they'll be here momentarily. So
oh, you did see it.
yeah, I think so. So yep. All right.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right. First order of business is to approve the minutes. There was one slight correction. I think it was just a spelling mistake.
One letter.
One letter that David caught. So any other changes or additions to the minutes from last meeting? All right, hearing none, I'll accept those minutes as submitted with the change that David caught. All right. First agenda item, we have a couple of our board members from the Middleton Gators here to give a presentation about Gators. So I'll turn it over to you.
All right, I'm just gonna pull it up here for you guys and.
Okay, hi, thanks for having us. I'm Zinnia Sundell and I'm the current Vice President of the swim portion of the Middleton Gators Swim and Dive team.
And I am Matt Flanagan. I am the actually outgoing president of the Middleton Gators Swim and Dive team. I've been affiliated with the Gators since 2000. Well, my kids started swimming in 2016. Been on the board since 2017 as a treasurer capacity, and for the last 3 years as the Gators president.
All right. Well, we'd like to start with just a little bit about the Gators Swim and Dive team. We started back in 1969 as a small community team at the Walter Rahman Aquatic Center. And they stayed kind of small, just rec team, just a little bit of casual swimming until 1986 when Gators joined the All City Swim and Dive League, which fast forward to now has 13 teams that are in the Madison and surrounding areas that come together. And we are one of only 3 that are held in a public pool. The remaining teams all take place at private pools. So they have a slightly different situation than we do. In 2014, we realized that the team separated. We used to be run by the city of Middleton as one of the rec programs. And then it kind of got a little large and we separated off and became an independent parent-run nonprofit, all volunteer organization.
In 2013, Middleton had hosted the last all-city swim meet in Middleton, and it was after that it was kind of decided that the Gators would be their own entity at that point. So at that point, we became responsible for securing our own financing, insurance, hiring, firing, and essentially taking care of running all of the day-to-day operations of it. We've had a partnership with the city of Middleton ever since then. We meet annually with Parks and Rec directors, assistant Parks and Rec director, to make sure that we kind of come up with a contract, and we do that on an annual basis just to make sure, find out what's going well with the team and the relationships of the pool. We've had a long-standing partnership essentially with everyone that works there.
This is sort of, we were at the Gators family of who makes up all of us. There's the board that runs it. There's 4 or 5, about 10 of us total on the extended board. Of the families on the team, I looked up this 2024s, and it was approximately 85% of the registration are city or town of Middleton. The rest, there's some Madison, a few Cross Plains, a few Wanakee, but mainly we're Middleton-based families. And it's always fun to see the number of kids that come and their parents show up, and then at some point they'll be like, I was a Gator back then. And I'm like, oh, that's fun. So it's kind of a family tradition for a lot of them. We have around 20 total coaches between head coaches, assistant, junior, and volunteer. And our head coaches have been a part of the league for decades. They both swam themselves and then have stayed around forever. And then our younger coaches typically stay with the team for quite a while until they start going off to college, and they'll even come back the first summer or two, and then eventually they move on. We average around 250 to 300 kids every summer, and they range in ages from 5 to 18. And every year we do provide some scholarships to cover the registration and apparel fees and stuff for kids who need it. This one sort of just talks about the combination of how Gators in the city of Middleton, like Matt said, we've been in partnership for a long time. But typically what happens, many of the kids start with swim and dive lessons that are run by the city at the aquatic center. Once in a while, we'll have, a 4-year-old or 5-year-old try out who we're like, you're not quite ready for the swim team yet. You got to be able to swim on your own, make it safely across. And if they can't, we recommend, why don't you go back to WABAC has some great lessons, go back and do those for another year. Once they do prove that they have the skills to be safely in the water on their own, then they join the team. Added on there that often our kids, as they get older and reach high school age, many of them join the Middleton boys and girls swim team, which are amazing, of course. We both have kids that did great on those. Then our kids from there, often many of them decide that they want to actually coach for the team. We, as a nonprofit, don't have, they could sure enough go off and get a job probably at Starbucks that pays more, but we have more applications than we have coaching roles to fill every year, which is amazing. Hard to turn them down to decide who coaches, but
We don't pay incredibly well.
Yeah, we don't.
Realistically, we rely heavily on recommendations, on the swimmers coming back. We want to make sure that they have that connection with the kids, that they're interested in coaching. And it provides them most oftentimes just a leadership opportunity that many of these kids haven't necessarily had before. It gives them the opportunity to kind of get used to being able to be a leader and separate from their friends a little bit. So we've seen a lot of success with that. And our coaches have come back year after year. We've had many who've come and been volunteers for a couple of years. Then they move into a junior coaching role. Then they may move into a lead coaching role. And we've had a lot of success with retaining our coaches through the first couple of years of college. So many of our coaches will actually come back. We're trying to play phone tag, much like you guys are, with trying to get students that come back for the summer to try to get them back on the team.
at the same time, many of the kids who are the high school age work for the city. Both of my kids did the guest services role, they lifeguard, they teach lessons. So they move into management. Two of the assistant managers this past summer were former Gator swimmers. So definitely start young and stay with the city for quite a while. This was just a fun little slide. Also talks about the way that we give back every year. Our season is only 7 or 8 weeks long. It's pretty much beginning of June to right about the end of July. But every year we raise money and donate to Second Harvest Food Bank and Way Forward Resources. We also do, we have barrels out to collect food as well as diapers and products. And pretty much we ask them what they need and we have our kids donate. They do volunteer hours in both locations as well. And every year depends on how much we raise, but we do all sorts of fundraising. We do smaller, games at meets to raise money, or we do large fundraising day where kids get pledges type of stuff. And every year we give around $5,000 to $7,000 to help the kids get back to the community. Matt talked about that back in 2013, it was the last time that Middleton hosted the All-City Championships. And so at the conclusion of each summer, all the teams come together and there's a championship dive meet for the divers, which has a couple hundred divers. And then the swim meet has over 2,000. So it's one of the largest amateur swim meets in the country. And it's quite the event. And we, are up on deck to host the dive meet in 2027. And then that's sort of the preview for the larger swim meet the summer of 2028. So that will be working closely with the city then to kind of figure out the logistics of the space for it and what we need to do in terms of parking and traffic and just.
That'll be
everything.
coordination with the city as well as the school district, just
Yeah.
understanding where Walter Bauman is to make sure that we have the opportunity to be able to host it and provide tents and everything else.
This was just our last little slide, just saying that, you know, we've been around in the community for over 50 years and have grown, you know, we're known for being a team that the kids return to year after year, always are looking forward to it. They always have, we get a lot of positive feedback from kids and parents. You know, we emphasize, of course, it's a swim team, so everybody's working on their swim skills and athletic excellence and everything, but we promote the giving back to the community, the camaraderie, the sportsmanship, the skills that we hope the kids really take away from, you know, the team itself and the memories that they'll have. And
We fully recognize we are just a summer swim team
Yeah.
with 7 to 8 weeks in the season. We can't call ourselves the most competitive swim team that's out there. We have a limited season. We're always outside. You know, a few years back, we were able to leverage the indoor pool for the first week for kind of some tryouts for us. The swim community is very, very strong in the Dane County area. You know, we have the All City Swim League that we're a part of. There's also the Tri-County League. There's a lot of swimmers out here in the area. The Madison Aquatic Club just built a beautiful facility on the west side of Madison to help support that. And we still see there's a huge crunch for pool time kind of through the area. So for us, we want to make sure that the kids' summer experience is a fun experience. From our Sunday fun days to the kickoff days at the start of the year. Zinnia had mentioned some of the fundraising activities that we would do to try to gain the kids and get the kids and the parents involved. Really, our focus is to try to help provide a positive impact on the community, not just from a swimming standpoint. We have really been lucky that we've had the byproduct has been, we've had some really good swim teams. We like to think that that's because we have some really great coaches and they take the kids having fun very seriously. And we want to make sure we continue with that. We won All City in 2018 for the Gators. We've consistently placed in the top, I would say 2 to 3. This past year, we were in second place. And for the size of team we have compared to the first place team, it really says a lot for us. Again, as Zinnia had mentioned, we compete with a lot of larger or private teams. And that's certainly a challenge. You know, there's 3 municipal pools in the league, Goodman, Monona, and Middleton. The rest are all private teams. So they have a little bit more flexibility with the hours that they're able to get swimmers in the pool and how often they're able to kind of practice.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for our visitors tonight?
Please feel free to ask any questions or learn more about their operations, but we're just super excited to have them be a part of are learning all of your faces and just getting their face out there as well. We work very, very closely with them for numerous hours in the summer for pool time and that. So we just wanted to bring in more user groups that we have partnerships or we work with in the community. So we're hoping that you guys can understand some of our operations through that as well.
We are certainly an extension of the SIT Parks and Rec group, just because of our origins. You know, we really were, it was part of the Parks Department, ran the team, operated the team from 1986 until 2013. Then it was a volunteer board that kind of came in, stepped in to try to run it, do the day to day. So for us, you know, we've really always taken that as part of our mission, is just to continue to extend that. Again, as Ania had mentioned, you know, we went from swimming lessons at WBAC to, you know, hey, the next thing you can do is why don't you try out for the swim team? I know for my kids, you know, we had swim lessons and it was just try the swim team, just try it for a week. And after the first week, they were hooked. It's a great opportunity. As parents, it's a wonderful opportunity because if anyone's been involved in competitive swimming, those meets aren't as fun as a parent because you're stuck inside or in a gymnasium. And I'd like to think that summer swim is really where you make a lot of memories. It gives kids some structure through the course of the summer and really gives the parents an opportunity to meet other parents in the community.
All right. Well, as a Gator parent times 2, thank you very much for coming and joining us tonight and giving your presentation about the club.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It was great.
Thank you.
Right. Agenda item number 2, 2024 Aquatic Center presentations. Laura's gonna lead this for us.
Okay, hold on here. I'm gonna grab the clicker. And. Oh, Lord. Okay, it's just so.
Thanks.
Thank you. To go.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Laura and I'm the Assistant Director for Recreation. And during the summer, I also have the pool on my plate, which is its own full-time job. Thought it might not be so much of a full-time job this summer, but that's not the way it worked. That's okay. All right, so these are our operational hours. I had gotten some feedback. I'd put a Survey Monkey out to members after the summer was done, and I had got some feedback about the hours, so I let them know about our hours, but I'm gonna let you know about our hours also. So most people think we're only open from 1 to 6 p.m. And they want to be open later, they want to be open earlier. So this is kind of what our day looks like. So we get there, I'm gonna use myself as a we also. The manager or the assistant manager or head guard gets there at 6 a.m. to get the pool open for gators, and they start at 6:30. But there's a lot of stuff that has to happen in the chemical and pump room before the pool can open to the public. So they're there at 6 a.m. To get ready for the day. We've got gators there Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 10:30 a.m. And then they're here Monday, Wednesday, Friday nights, 6:15 to 7:45 p.m. And then there's 3 home swim meets or 4, and then 3 or 4 dive meets, just kind of depending on the year and what's going on. And then we also have swim lessons running. They run Monday through Friday the first week and Monday through Thursday the second week, 9:30 to 12:15. And then Monday through Thursday this summer, they ran 6:15 to 8 p.m. and they also ran Sundays 10 to noon. So our mornings from 6:30 in the morning until 12:15, the pool is running and pretty well booked between the diving well and all the lap lanes. And then adding into the 0 depth area for some of our younger kids for lessons. The Fridays that we don't have swim lessons, we do lifeguard in service. We're required 4 hours a month of in service. So the day that we have off from lessons where they should be able to kind of have that morning off, they're at the pool for in service. And then our lap swim and our open swim is every day of the week, 1 to 6 p.m., as well as Sundays for lap swim, 10 until noon. So that's kind of what our hours look like.
And we also, something to note on there is we don't have any lights in the pool basin or lights around the pool. It would be extremely expensive to add it for a 26-year-old pool to add lights and make them adequate for that aging facility. That limits our time for evening and morning availability.
That's why everything ends at 8 p.m. At some point during the summer, the light is around a little bit longer, but as the summer goes on, it's the darkness cuts in sooner and sooner, so. All right, fun stuff, money stuff. This is the last 5 years. That first year, 2020, that was, some of these slides are gonna show it with just COVID, and some are gonna have revenues and expenses. It just kind of depends what section we're in. So this was our so far total revenue and expense for this year, as well as our total.
And just kind of, we've seen a lot going for like back to pre-COVID numbers, like just budgetarily wise and so as we look through the 5 years, we note that there, or like just make a note that there was the COVID years that definitely affected operations. But we try our very hardest. We're trying to come up with a percentage of subsidy that we provide for this pool and as a target. So that's something we're doing as fiscal management with our rec team. And just trying to figure out knowing how much we subsidize for the pool and what we're comfortable with and how to assess our fee for memberships or swim lessons and things like that. So.
Next up is season pass holders. So we had 268 family passes. On a family pass could be 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, up to 6 people. 69 individual passes for a total of 1,133 members to the pool. Our budget this year, we thought we would bring in about $40,000 in revenue for season passes, and we were above 47,000. So that was, I mean, real happy with that. And then this is our season pass revenue. It's year to date, but it's also going to be end of year since the pool season is done. This is 2020 through 2024. We had a really good year. You can definitely see a bounce back is in the works right now, and that feels good.
330, yeah. And we also increased the membership or the pass rates in the last couple of years. I know that has been brought to the board or to you guys as a group a couple times, and we had raised it a few dollars on there. So it doesn't look to be negatively affecting that based off of this data.
And then these were our daily admissions. So I call them drop-ins, people that are coming in just for the day. June and August are pretty similar because we're open like 2.5, 3 weeks in each of those months. And then July, we're open the entire time. We had budgeted for 95,000 and our year to date was almost 96,000. So a little bit over there too. Again, it was a good year. And then this is our aquatic admissions over the last 5 years. Again, from what we know, 2020 and 2021 were limited in space and hours just due to the COVID guidelines. But the number has been growing with the price, but I think last summer there was an increase in the price, but not this summer. And it looks like we're trying to crawl back to that like 20,000 number. That's the goal. And this is our concession revenue. Our budget was 30,000 and our total was just over 30,000. So kind of right on track for that also. This is great because our budget for our wages for concessions was under by like 15,000 this year. So we were able to do a pretty big overhaul with concessions, keeping the revenue up while keeping the
Staffing
wages.
cost,
Yeah.
Something that Laura and I looked at is how many staff do you need? Like, or Laura looked at, is like staffing structure and not, always having, just because you have 2 assigned in concessions or 2 in the front and you have a manager and that's what it would be at a full day. Some days there's not a high attendance or we don't have a lot of the weather, is very dependent. So making sure that we're pulling staff, pulling lifeguards, pulling staff where they don't need to be, like if it's a slow day, having 2 people in the concessions isn't necessary. So Laura and the leadership team did a good job at just monitoring that, and we did a really good job at getting wage costs down.
And then this is our revenue. So about $500 less than last year, but in the grand scheme of the summer, pretty similar. And then program revenue, a little bit, the revenue itself was a little bit higher this year. We added in some new programs and we did something a little bit different for lessons, which I'm not doing again next year. The number of participants has dropped a little bit, but I'm gonna switch a few things around for summer 2025, and I think those numbers will start going back up.
I have a question. Did you like, or did we used to have Gators like in this? Cause so program revenue,
I took that off.
you took it off
Yeah.
out of all of those?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yep.
just,
Okay, so one of the reasons we have lower participants but a higher revenue is the last 2 weeks of the summer, I offered small group lessons and private lessons at a higher rate versus large group lessons, just because I didn't know if I was gonna have enough instructors. Those last couple weeks of summer get to be really tough with the college kids and with the assistant managers and managers if they have jobs teaching during the school year. If they leave, then I'm the one that's there 24/7. So I wanted to make sure that I had the pool in a place where it was going to be able to run lessons throughout the summer without having to worry about not having enough instructors. So it was lower participants, with a higher revenue, but this summer it looked like most of the kids were gonna be able to stick around. So we're gonna go back to our old model next year. And then this was swim lessons 2024. The red were our morning lessons, and this is just how many swimmers we had and how many were on the wait list. The first grouping of green is our PM lessons. I added in a session 3, thinking that I would end up with 125 swimmers for each of those sessions, and that did not happen. So that's not happening next year.
they just.
They
split.
just split themselves up, which is real annoying. Sunday, we had 33 swimmers and the majority of those swimmers were parent-child. And then we had private and small group lessons, the last 2 weeks of lessons. The small group lessons went Monday through Thursday in the preschool and levels 1, 2, and 3. And then the private lessons was for anybody that wanted to sign up for them. And those were 4-day lessons also. And then we had those for 2 weeks. And staffing, so this year we added on to, some of our programming, and with that comes needing more lifeguards. And then we had, I think, $1 bump for our lifeguards, and then we added on head guards this year because we need to have some sort of management plan going from one year to the next. What I found out this year was after our 3 of the assistant managers and the manager left after last summer because they were all starting their like adult jobs, and there was nobody to take over because nobody had been training up. So we started with head guards this summer, as well as brand new assistant managers. And then Megan, who had been a manager part-time last summer, stepped up to the role for full-time this summer. So there was just a lot of changes going on again this year. So our current staff, we have 1 manager, Megan. She actually teaches in Michigan during the school year. So she left the week before we closed, and she got here at the beginning of the summer, like the day that we opened. We had 3 assistant managers who had been guards last year, 2 assistant managers and guest services. Both of them came back from last year, which was great. And then 16 guest services staff, 5 head lifeguards, 31 guards, and 53 swim and dive instructors. So staffing, we had over a 90% return rate for our staff minus the management team, which meant that everybody kind of knew what they were doing this summer, and that was really nice. Last summer we had, I think 75% of the staff was new. So last summer was tough because of the amount of new staff. This summer was tough because the management team was brand new to managing. And that was a lot of growth for them. let's see, 31 lifeguards, 18 guest services, 53 swim instructors, and we ended up hiring I only hired, I think, 4 new guest services staff this year total. And there were like 35 people that applied, 35, 14-year-olds. So I ended up hiring them as helpers for swim lessons and they loved it. So it was great. And then special events and new programs for this year. So the special events we had were middle school night, the 4th of July pool party, the adaptive family days that we had in 2023. The staff liked the one that we did so much that they wanted to do a second one this year. So we did 2 of those. We had family fun nights on Fridays and Sundays from 4 to 6 p.m. The Try for Schools is a kids triathlon that takes place at the pool for the swim portion, but they bike and run around Middleton with the streets, trails and all that kind of stuff. And then this year we had a pride party. The same week, the city was holding different pride events. That was actually the first week we were open. And then we did dollar days twice to support Way Forward. And new programs we did were Master Swim Team, and that was Master Swim Team came in the morning after Gators were done. So that was like the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And then we did deep water running and deep water exercise classes Monday through Thursday in the diving well before the Gators dive team started. And 2024 improvements, we updated the rule signage throughout the facility. One of the reasons we did this was public health updated their rules, which meant we had to update ours. And since we had been talking about new signage anyway, it was the right time to do it. Invested in staff with lifeguard instructor training and water safety instructor training. And then invested in the pool, and Kylie might be able to talk more about this, but 5 new pumps, a filter system, heater. I don't know what all else we did, but that pool is, it's getting a facelift downstairs, so nobody gets to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to do a shout out to Laura, because we had nobody, when I stepped in a couple years ago, there was not a single person LGI certified except for myself. And so getting, how many people did you get LGI certified?
We had 5, not including me this year. So they were able to lead the team with lifeguard certifications, recertifications, and standards.
And getting them all WSI certified. We switched over to Red Cross lessons, and we're holding Red Cross, standard Red Cross lessons, which they weren't doing before. And so we are ensuring that everybody is getting certified so that they can help our entire team out in our facility. So that was a whole winter and a year-long project that we've been, I don't know if it is more than a year, but they all blend together.
It feels like
Then-
forever.
And so that, and then just the entire pool basement, which you don't see, and it's really not a very fun portion of the pool,
But
but
if you would like a tour, we can take you sometime.
yeah, it is.
I would love that.
Yes. Okay,
There we
I
go.
am- I am super interested, this is my favorite part, one of my favorite parts of my job, but because there's no people down there and I know everything's to code, so it has to be done that way. No public input in that portion. But they have, I shouldn't say that out loud, but they have what we did is the heater, we started with the meters from MG&E had to be replaced so the pool heater worked because it wasn't working for a full season before I was here. And then we got a brand new chemical feed monitor, chemical feeder, acid pump, everything in the chemical control is all brand new. And this was all helpful with ARPA funds, which are the
American Rescue
Plan Act that came from the COVID era. And then also we ripped out all of the, we had residential filtration system for a portion of the pool. And then we put a commercial filter and then all of the filter media, which is these big tanks that flush and clean out all the water that of the bigger particles. And all the media is actually made out of Heineken bottles, crushed Heineken bottles, so it's glass. And it'll last forever and we don't have to do enzyme cleans and it's more efficient. And all of this stuff is making our facility more efficient, so I'm excited to see the electric and the water costs that we have. And also we know how to operate the pool better, so we're saving a little bit of money there. But and then every single pump and our furnace downstairs, and we're putting that on an app so the guys can see what the temperature of the room is over the winter. And then all of every single pump, motor, and valve from the wall and piping, we're changing to schedule 80, which is necessary because it's schedule 40, I believe, right now. Wall to wall valve. Some of the valves didn't work. I tested them and the room flooded. So I wanted to test some of the valves that need to close. And I did that and it was kind of disastrous. So I won't do that again. But very exciting that we had ARPA funds to help replace a lot of that, but then we didn't focus as much on the bathhouse and we didn't focus as much on the like pool basin and deck area. But we're hopeful to kind of move into that direction of repainting the pool. We have to do that in 2026 and looking at the water features or some things like that. So just kind of trying to keep up the facility in that way, but yay, that's all. I don't know.
That's a lot.
Yep,
Yeah, it
That's
is.
a lot.
It's a lot. I think we're real lucky we opened on time. Like there was just a lot going on before the
I don't
season
remember.
started. Yeah, it feels so long ago. And then 2025. So we are hoping to invest in some new technology, possibly with a Clover system, but some other point of sales that would be a little bit more up to date. I have down here starting rentals for parties. We had thought about it this summer, but we really need to get a plan down for pricing before that could even start. So I'm gonna start working on that. And then we'll be trying to offer more open and lap swim times. I think the easiest time for that is gonna be on the weekend, and instead of being open until 6, opening until 7 or 7:30. And then once gators are done in the morning, being able to possibly have some more lap swim times during their practices. And then once swim lessons is done, being able to offer some more. So that's the goal right now, is trying to figure out how to do that. And then continue updating our facility by painting the exterior, which we're looking into right now. And then coming up with some characters and possible rebranding to kind of bring it into 2025. And then once that happens, we'll be updating the uniforms to kind of play off of that. And that brings us to our rebranding. So we are talking a lot about if the name of the aquatic center makes sense in 2025. Do we want to keep it as Walter R. Bauman Aquatic Center? Would we like to call it a different name? Do we want to start it with Middleton, Wally Bauman? Do we want it to be a community pool, a neighborhood pool, an outdoor pool, swim pool? So we're talking about that now. What we're wanting to do is revitalize the pool with fun, fresh branding, possibly a new name that targets the community, but still reflects the person who's an important part of the Middleton and Madison history. We'd like to get an updated plaque on the building with updated info on Walter Wally Bauman, and update the visuals of the building with a new logo, paint fun characters that make it welcoming. So we want it to be more of like a destination for families, but also so like the families and the community,
We should,
something that's like fun and fresh and new come into the pool.
And the identity of the pool right now, like what's that visualization? And I think trying to encompass it in a logo that we could use in a fun way if it's on the staff t-shirt, but also like stickers or things that we can really try to get out in the community that people recognize our facility. And right now we have a contract with designing a logo. We'll have the logo come and be in front of you guys to take a look at and comment on before it's finalized. But we're trying to get that done by the end of the year. Because we're looking at that logo and rebranding, we are looking at the name of the facility. Right now, I think it's a little bit hard to say Walter R. Bauman Aquatics Center altogether. I think people call it the outdoor pool, but we want them to have like an easy name to say. And our goal is to have it be a welcoming facility for the Middleton community. So how do we encompass all of that? And we know that Walter Bauman, which is the second photo on the wall here, the mayor was very critical in getting this facility here in Middleton built. So we don't want to lose Walter Bauman in this process. So we've been looking at something like some of the characters, Wally the Walrus, stuff like that, real fun, hopefully, but I don't know. So yeah, so if anybody thinks of any ideas, you can feel free to email Laura on that, or if you have any feedback for us tonight on the entire presentation, the pool operations, rebranding, all of that, or have questions, feel free to speak now.
2 questions. One, any progress on the sound system, or is that just sort of staying as it is?
It's a lot of money.
I
Yeah, it's we spent $15,000 on it a couple years ago.
right, and it just, we're just keeping it as it is for now.
It needs to be updated. It's on our list. I think we did a lot with the pump room, and that's been kind of our main focus, but we definitely want to take a look at that. So we have a few company names, and we want to just get a proposal
Okay,
for all of that.
pumps that were done, are different pumps than the pumps here.
No, those are in there tonight, so maybe I'm confusing, but they'll be done by the end of the year.
Oh. Oh, got it.
They've been purchased, they just need to, you guys need to okay it, and then common council, and then we'll install them in the next month. That's a good question.
One question I have is, when I first started on the board, there's discussion about the pumps and how the whole facility was aging. And I think at one point, even at that, this is 6 years ago, the discussion was that you have a separate diving well and a separate pool operated by one pump system. But as soon as you started making modifications, codes for swimming pools changed, that you'd have to separate those systems out. And at the time, very cost prohibitive to do that. Is the pumps that you're installing kind of, how is this working without,
They
with
all have-
maintaining code?
Oh, they all have to meet code, and they all, that we bring in, I'm gonna say this wrong, but, we bring in they have to get a permit to get them completed, and then all okayed, and then I get the copy of the permit from, I can't say the acronym right. It's like Department of, it's, I can't think of it right now. I'm so sorry, but I will send it to you.
DACAP,
I know,
Yeah,
DACAP. Why,
agriculture trade.
yeah,
consumer.
but it's them.
Right.
They have to come in and approve the, because it has to be approved flow rate, and the motor has to make sure that the flow rate is going to code. And so once we get it all installed, but all of that is run through the permitting process. through the
Okay.
state. So it's not, and I did look at that feasibility study, and I did bring that up when I was first looking into this, because we can't not replace the motors because or work on them, and all the valves were broken or like not working, are holding water. So and then they were unlevel to the wall. So some of the one that I was really concerned with actually
Had
was
zip ties around it.
zip tie. It was like O-ring, like it was just duct taped, and it was our main motor, and it would have flooded the entire basement. So
We did not do that.
Duct tape's always.
I remember the duct tape. We
I-
got a tour of that once and I remember the
okay,
duct tape
and
and like,
I was not okay operating the facility in that manner, so then I started digging into the whole shebang with our motors and making sure they're compliant. So I did read that, and I not that I didn't listen to it, but I just made sure I was getting all the compliancy and permitting that's necessary.
okay.
I think there's a difference between replacing things that are
If
outdated versus building a brand new
Okay.
pool and
Mhm.
changing the entire pump room, which is what
Okay.
we would do then,
Yeah,
like if we
yeah.
were to
Okay.
build new.
Any other questions about the pool?
Actually, can you go back to the first slide for me? So were some of the numbers, did some of them have a dash just to have a space, and some of them were negative numbers?
Some are negative numbers.
I know in the first one they were negative, yeah,
Yeah.
but on some of
Oh,
the
I'm
other
so
ones
sorry.
where they
I'm
just.
looking at yours, you guys. Okay, I'm just gonna go here.
Okay, so here they're negative numbers.
Right.
And then after, in some of the following slides. Go more.
That should be negative because it's an expense technically, right? Staffing.
That's how much we spent on wages.
No, I don't think they have to be negative numbers, but
Or,
there was a slide that I was confused on and I just wanted to make sure.
no, that's okay. Is it?
Oh, can you go back to page 6?
Yeah,
Oh, it's just a dash. Yeah,
Okay.
to separate it from the word.
oh, okay, got it.
That would be sad, though. If our daily admissions was negative 25.
I know. No, I didn't take it that
We
way.
come in and we just give them money.
Your budget was negative 95,000. No, okay.
That's a good question, though. God, it gets
Yeah.
confusing if
Yep.
it's laid out differently.
I'll actually note it to myself for next year. So,
Maybe do
yeah.
a colon or
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
Have we ever had a year where we come out in the black?
No.
Why?
At least from 2017 on, no.
That, like, but looking back, but just operating pools for the last 15 years. I have never had operations where we've haven't had the school district or the city subsidize for operations.
I see. And is that a common thing for all pools?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
there are, the one pool that actually makes revenue is White Pool. They have a beer garden attached to it, and they make they do a multi-use for the facility and concessions, and so they can really and just how they set up their pool. And I think if you look at trying to make something multi-use, if there's an ice skating rink and you can use your
Mhm.
concessions year round,
Mhm.
how can you make your facility a
Mhm.
better programmable hours throughout the
Wow.
entire year?
It just seems like a bad idea, but
When I was at the,
Money
when
wise,
I was at
probably
the
not.
Y in Illinois, all of the other departments always make money. But the pool, it was a really good month for me if it was like negative 2,000. So when we
Oh.
go into our meetings together, everyone's like, oh, we're plus 5,000, we're this, and I'm like, we're only negative 2,000, and that was
Yeah.
like, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And that was a celebration, which is the saddest thing ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we hope to analyze all of our expense and revenue through programming and take a look at where our subsidies are, because we have subsidies for Gators. We subsidize for them, we subsidize for the pool facility, we subsidize for all of our user groups throughout. Yeah, I mean, I could name off 10 of them
Mm.
right now that we provide funding support to Cardinals football, youth football, Middleton youth baseball for at different amounts that we subsidize so that their operations can run. So
I
those,
think the lowest we saw pre-COVID was negative 58,000.
yeah, and we
Yeah, that was not the presentation last year.
and we subsidize for the youth center as well. So out of our rec, our higher subsidy is for youth center, it's about 90 or
Right.
95,000. Then, and this is definitely another program or facility we subsidize for, but we're hoping to generate revenue through our other programming opportunities or rentals or revenue sources that we can help cover cost.
Right.
Can we go back to the net income?
This one or not this one?
The top
Oh,
one
wait.
with numbers?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know where I'm at.
That's okay. So what stands out to me is that the revenue is continuing to go up year on year. The expenses have changed, but consistently it's going up since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
That's with all your
So-
variances and your different, yeah.
The biggest thing that's changed in our expenses are our contracted services. So our cleaning service, our chemical service, things of that nature. And then also our staffing has doubled since like 10 years ago. We used to pay the staff like I don't know, $10, and now they're up to $17 minimum for lifeguards. So staffing rates, wages have changed, the expense and our contracted services. So that's the biggest difference, I think.
Yeah, and that $17 for lifeguard, I mean, it wasn't all that long ago. I think we even approved a raise to $12 an hour.
Yep.
So and this is just the national lifeguard shortage. I think this is how we're responding to that.
Mhm.
Because at one point, I know few years ago, they were worried about not having enough lifeguards to be
That was
able to.
last year.
It was last
It
year.
was last year. It's
Or 2
probably
years
the year
ago.
before also,
Okay.
but during COVID, you couldn't hold lifeguard classes because
Mhm.
everything is hands-on, literally with another
Mhm.
person, and you couldn't do that.
Mhm.
So every single pool until this summer has been struggling finding
Yep.
staff because every single one of those kids who would have been certified went somewhere else to work. You
Mhm.
know, this summer we had great staffing this summer. Last summer, it took us until mid-July to get a full staff roster.
And I saw, the statistic on there, 90% return rate. Are there factors that you can think of that have contributed to such a low amount of turnover or?
So I don't know because I wasn't there the summer before. But I think it really, it ebbs and flows, but it also depends on like who you have hired. Sometimes they just mesh really well and they want to come back, and like the staff last summer, they were such good kids. And they came back this summer, and I think
Maybe
they
it's
all.
Laura.
could be.
I know, I was like,
Mhm.
it has to be her.
Watch you next year, I'm like, it's
I know, I was like,
45%.
stop saying that.
Because I know we had retention issues too. So I think we now have a retention bonus. Like if you come back another year, you
and
get.
we didn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did
Or was it like
a lifeguard, we did
pay
like a
raise?
certification coverage. So we
Hmm.
worked with HR to do certification reimbursement if they worked. I don't remember what you
Halfway through
did.
the summer.
Hmm.
So in the middle of the summer, they got their
Well.
feed from the lifeguard class back.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's cool.
that was good. And that was a new thing that she did, so.
Right.
We were fully staffed and it was, nobody ever had a problem finding another sub. Everybody
Don't
seemed to get
remember that.
along. I
I
mean,
don't,
they were good kids again this summer. There's good kids here.
Does anybody oppose I know we glanced over the Walter Bauman,
Do you want to go back to
Um,
this side?
like oppose or have any thoughts about the naming? We are kind of leaning towards Bauman or community pool. We're kind of leaning towards that direction just to be transparent, but we will keep working on logo and naming. We still want to keep Bauman or Wally in there, so
Does anybody here know what it was called before it was called this?
yeah.
I think did we ask that last year? And
I don't
nobody
know.
knew?
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
were
don't know.
trying to hunt into that. So,
I did a deep dive and I got some Reddit
Oh,
information about a
let me text
misconnection.
our former city administrator and see if he.
oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we could ask Mike Davis.
I like the community pool, I think of the lists there. I don't know how anybody else feels, but
Bauman Community Pool or just community?
well, whatever it is, community pool. So
You guys don't want Middleton in the name?
I feel like we'll be able to really highlight that it is Middleton. I'm not opposed to Middleton. I
It's one of the options on the list, yeah.
I don't want the mayor's name to be all the way lost, like in the name is like, I can share the story with you guys about how it's a lot to get a pool funded and like built. And so I think, paying homage to, Walter Bauman is really important.
make it a park, Walter Bauman
He
Park,
doesn't-
and
he
then
doesn't have a
have,
park.
That was, Woods, Wally Bauman
Yeah.
Woods. He
Oh, okay.
did something else kind of cool in
and
the
then have
area.
the
with-
pool at, you know how they do like the Barry Alvarez
Park?
Field at Camp Randall Stadium?
You could do water park, like Bauman Water Park, or like something like that too. Bauman Community Water Park. That's too many words. I don't know.
Keep some.
Yeah. But
What's it officially called right now?
Walter R. Bauman Aquatic Center. And then Aquatic Center, I said, Aquatic Center, I don't know if that like reminds people of like where penguins live or like anything of that nature,
Yeah, but I don't
but
think you want to get into a water park either because.
Right,
it is technically a water park.
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
But it doesn't really
It
resemble
implies
a
more
water.
than what it is.
Yeah. It's
And there's another aquatic center in the same parking lot. Cause
that they
it's,
deliver all our stuff to.
I was looking at some other pool
Oh, yeah.
somewhere, and they did yoga, like morning yoga
we have
on
nighttime
the deck
yoga.
or something.
Oh,
Yep.
that's a good idea.
Oh, on the
Yeah,
deck? Oh, yeah.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
If you need space, you know.
Yeah.
for
To,
things.
on the last day that you're open, have you ever considered bring your
No.
dog to the pool day?
we could do that. We would need a variance, from public health. We could do that, Laura. Jesus. We definitely, if we do that, we have to, drain everything to the creek, like, which we do anyways. We, deplete we wait until everything is tested, low enough to be able to, drain, and it goes to the creek. That's where the outlet is, because we don't want if the hair and all that stuff went through our filtration system and sat there all winter. But some pools don't have that opportunity. So where we're located, we would have that opportunity. I don't know how much funding we would like create off of that opportunity versus the parks crew staff would do a
Mhm.
lot of cleaning afterwards. So I'm just trying to gauge the temperature of staff willing to be involved in the process. So that's a good idea though.
Any other questions or naming input?
Was the nickname of Walter Wally?
We believe so. We're just verifying because it was called, he did have Wally as like his other facility, or not facility, but he donated and did a lot with Wally Woods, which is over by kind of by Picnic Point area. And they call it Wally Woods, but I didn't spend as much time digging yet. But I did read that, and then we were trying to find his obituary because it would probably mention it in there.
I know
Um,
it said Wally in there too.
Oh, you did see it?
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know. We're still doing research gathering phase here.
And we rented the pool for an event.
Oh.
Back in the day when you still did that. And I thought it was too little of a fee, and I think people would pay more. So I think you should push that a little bit if you're
Mhm.
considering if there's ever a block of time. But that was really neat to do.
Yeah, we have very limited time and space,
Totally.
but that being said, that's what we're looking into is like when and where can we do it?
How much would people pay for an hour, 2 hour rental? Like,
What do you normally charge now?
well, we don't have a fee set up, but since our staffing costs, I think it's like how much the operational cost is like 110 per hour, and that's not with staffing. And then because they have to be there a half an hour early and a half an hour late to clean up or 15, wraparound time, that's still a cost for that service. And because they're working already that shift, it would be an add-on, and then they work. Is it worth it? That's what we're trying to evaluate.
Right.
I think if you share that information, the operational cost, and then even ask for a donation or something, or, have a fixed thing and offer a donation, I think people would snatch that up.
Yeah.
Just my personal, but I know there's not a lot of time,
Yeah.
but I think you would be surprised.
We can always try it
Mhm.
and just try to make
Mhm.
sure we cover costs for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if the cost is gonna be the loading factor. If you just need 1 or 2 people to sign up for it, the cost might not be as prohibitive as we'd imagine. Like, it's hard to rent the pool. It's not a thing you can really do. So if you build it, they will come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just have to make sure we price it like that it covers.
In worst
Like
case scenario, nobody
staffing.
takes you up on it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe when they're closed, maybe it's like the end of season,
What's that?
Oh,
end of season, like, the week or, because the kids are.
We would
still out
have
of
to
school, I
have
think, right?
They're still
rentals.
out of school, yeah.
yeah, for staffing wise, we wouldn't have
Yeah.
staff there then, right? Oh, yeah.
Swim at your own risk. Do you need lifeguards?
What was that?
Do you need lifeguards if you're renting the pool?
Oh, yeah. And you need a certain number of lifeguards for the square footage of the pool. So
It's all cool.
like
Oh.
our pool with the diving well and the slides and the size of our pool, we need 7 or 8 people lifeguarding, and that's not including like people rotating them in and out. So that ends up being, we'll say 9 people times, if it's an hour rental, times an hour and a half for them. So the
Mhm.
price goes up pretty quick.
But we'll look
Yeah.
into it though. It sounds like there might be some interest if we just throw it out there and
Mhm.
see what we
Mhm.
get. And just put it in some strategic time slots so we can test the waters.
Mhm. All right, any other questions before we move on?
Thanks for all you do.
Yeah, thank
My
you.
gosh, wow. Amazing.
All right, on to agenda item number 3, award of bid to Carico Aquatic Resources for the amount of $78,250 for the pool feature pump and strainer replacements.
Okay, so this is what we were talking about finishing by the end of the year. We have our feature pumps, which are our water slide. We have 2 for our water slide and 1 for our features, which are those little spray features in the 0 depth area. We're replacing the pumps motors there. And we had bid out the project. We got 2 bid responses back. And I can show you the bid tab here. Our low bidder, gosh, what's going on, was Carico Aquatic Resources, who we work with as they have a contract with us for all the chemical over the year or over the season. The bid is $78,350 to complete the project. We will be utilizing our capital, which was $60,000, and the remaining balance of $18,350 out of ARPA funds that have to be expended by the end of the year or committed by the end of the year. That's where we have funding allocated for that project. And it'll be done by December 31st.
We replacing just the pumps, or replacing pumps and motors?
Pumps for each, motors for each, and the valve leading up to it, and the valve for the water intake and valve up on the way out, and then all the piping in between, and then flow meters.
So how big are these pumps? What do they do for gallons per minute, or?
I don't remember that right now, but gallons per minute are based off of, I don't know those ones because they're not run on a VFD.
Oh, yeah.
The two that are run on a VFD, I know the gallons per minute because they're like the main circulation pumps, and
Yeah.
those have to be on. But I don't know that right now, but I can get it for you.
That's just curious.
They have to be to code for this like slide and feature. They can't go over a certain amount or under because they have to recirculate. The entire pool has.
These are pretty big.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve, to recommend the purchase.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, agenda item number 4, resident, non-resident policy.
All right, I gave you guys a heads up at our last meeting that we would be discussing resident, non-resident policy, and this is relating to all of our fee structure that we have for our department. Currently, our resident definition is anybody who lives within the school district of Middleton, Cross Plains, within the school district boundaries would be at the resident rate. Everybody that lives without or outside of the school district boundary would be a non-resident. I'm proposing, and this is based off of, I'm proposing that this policy right here, which a resident would be any person who resides within the corporate city limits of Middleton. Persons who own property in Middleton but reside outside of Middleton are also considered residents. So basically anybody that pays taxes to the city of Middleton would be considered a resident. I had consulted with several directors in the Madison area, or Dane County and Greater Dane County to see what they do for their resident, non-resident fees. And then closely, like here, we have Cross Plains and Wanakee, Verona, Fitchburg that kind of wrap around us, that have Parks and Rec departments and do offer those services. And Wanakee and Cross Plains, both which are very close in our school district boundaries, they are only for taxpayer. Their resident definition is for taxpayers, so they do not go to the school district boundaries for resident, non-resident. I'm really proposing this because this is kind of a multi-phase project within our rec department and the direction I'd like to go with the entire department for financial sustainability within our operations, so we can help subsidize for things like the pool or the youth center, and take a look at making sure that our operations are very sustainable within our department. We currently are, so this is what I'm proposing, and it's also with our rec desk registration system. And registration softwares don't, it's very hard to map out the school district boundaries and know what those are versus looking up in the DCI map and knowing if somebody is a resident of the city of Middleton. So this is the definition, and I will provide, we're planning on rolling this out with our winter, spring recreation guide and having a splash within that guide, and then also communicating it in the next 3 weeks that we would be moving to this fee structure and kind of why and what that means, and having kind of a fact sheet that explains what a resident is, what a non-resident is. And so people understand that before they get to the registration process.
I think it would be easier to just say resident, non-resident, and forget the taxpayer portion, someone who owns property. Then again, I don't think that'll get used too much, so I don't know that it's a big deal. It just seems like you're adding a little bit of confusion.
And that is something that you guys can discuss tonight for sure. I'm open to that. That one was, there were some that, like Wanakee did that where Cross Plains didn't. So there was some variance. I was just trying to be a little bit more accommodating as we're having a pretty big move, but I am okay. Because they get counted as a resident in maybe 2 areas, but I don't know what you all want to consider as a resident.
I just think it'd be easier.
I
more
think
clear-cut.
that for practical, I think you're absolutely right to not do the school district boundaries anymore.
Yes.
And I think it's very practical for a young person working at the entrance to the pool to just be able to look at someone's license and see that they're a resident of the city of
We
Middleton.
need that.
Or how do you do it?
And at the pool right now, we have
It's a
one.
flat fee.
We have one flat fee at the
Mhm.
pool. The pool is a little bit more, and we can look at that when we bring our pool fees up. That one, there are some that we only have a flat fee for, not very many, and we can take a look at that structure. For the pool fees, we charge a flat fee. I've done it both ways in different communities. It is really hard for a 14-year-old to check someone's license and
Yeah.
people.
Okay, so you don't do the resident, non-resident at the door?
At the door, but we do for memberships. So
Oh.
Well,
Because you've got-
even so, I think it's only right
Oh.
that you're doing it the way, not doing the school district anymore. I think that is absolutely fair.
Any other thoughts?
I agree. It makes total sense to switch to a taxpayer-centric model for resident versus non-resident. Do you know like the past numbers? Have you looked at past numbers and essentially projected this change onto them to see how it would shake out, whether it would be a net positive or net gain or net loss?
I believe it'll be a net gain, but we have a ton of people that register that are not, we have not a ton, I should say.
That are at the school district.
That are in the school district and not in the city that, take part in our programming.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but our next phase of this process, once we identify this policy, is figuring out a model or a structure for percentage of subsidy or a percentage of fee for each of our program classifications. And we'll be bringing that back for you guys to take a look at to help us just make sure we have a financial policy for our fees moving forward. So some of them we might want to make 150%. Some of them we might want to subsidize 50%. So
So do you have any idea, and I think you probably don't, how many people that would be getting a resident fee, even though they're not residents, but simply own property within the city limits?
I don't know that. That's the tricky one,
See.
but
How would you prove ownership?
Yeah,
That's the next question. This is
Like
why I
a
want to make it
utility bill
simple,
or
and I
something?
just want to say resident,
No.
non-resident, and I think that's complicated enough.
yeah, I'm open to discussion for sure on that one. I think Wanakee had the property owner one, Cross Plains, Fitch, there's a lot of them that didn't have the property owner one. I went back and forth on that part of the policy quite a bit. I think, my practice before this was that if you, wherever you physically reside in,
Yeah,
so
I
it
mean-
was, but I don't know what.
So if you want
It's
to.
hard because you're paying taxes too, as a
Yep,
property
yep.
You
owner.
pay taxes for a bunch of stuff that you don't always get stuff out of.
Okay.
That's just a part of when you own property someplace else. That's the way it works. And trying to come up with this, trying to look it up, you go to DCI map. And a lot of people that own property someplace else have either got smart and developed an LLC. And the LLC name does not necessarily reflect the family name, not to mention you can't really connect the two readily. Or number two, they have
Yeah.
some sort of trust that they've
Mhm.
set their
Just
money
keep
up.
it
in.
simple for yourself, resident, non-resident.
So we, you guys would like to strike, or the second sentence, which would be persons who own property in Middleton but reside outside of Middleton are not, so they wouldn't be considered resident.
I would be in favor of that. Is, I guess, any other thoughts?
I don't feel like I know enough, but it makes sense based on what I'm hearing.
Yeah, my thought essentially, my 2 cents would just be that if you own multiple properties, you get the luxury of choosing which one you live at. And I mean, I don't think people are gonna be choosing it over something like this, but also that's an opportunity that a vast minority of people are gonna be within.
Right.
And just the simplicity of checking.
Yes.
So I would move to strike the second sentence from the definition of resident to,
And you're making a motion to approve the rest.
yes, and I'm making a motion to approve the rest.
Okay,
All right, we have a motion,
I'll second that.
we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, agenda item number 5, nonprofit civic group shelter reservation fee policy.
All right, so I'll try to make this one brief. Our nonprofits, civic groups, right now, we did not update this when we updated our fees for resident, non-resident for all of our shelters. So right now, everyone gets every shelter that is a nonprofit outside of Middleton. They could be from Appleton, Madison, Middleton. They all get shelter rates at $75. It's $75 to rent. If they are a nonprofit that wants to meet as a, at the small Lakeview Small Shelter or Middleton Station Shelter, which we don't rent out Middleton Station Shelter, but they get a daily rate of $15 an hour. And I have not seen anybody rent out Lakeview Small Shelter or Middleton Station Shelter for that use at all. Since I've been here, I don't know. In the last however many years since this was that
Okay.
policy.
Can I provide a little bit of background on where
Yeah,
this
you
starts, or this
definitely.
kind of stemmed from? So quite a few years ago, I think this is like pre-COVID. We found out that there was a Boy Scout troop that was essentially getting the use of Lakeview Park Shelter without cost. They had done some work, like volunteer work, like picking up garbage and stuff, and it was kind of almost like quid pro quo to give them that access. And at the time, the Parks Department said, we're going to no longer allow that to happen. And there was the troop came to try to plead their case to one of our meetings here. And, quite a few of us, we empathized with them because they were like, well, we have our meetings there, but we can't afford to pay the whole, we're just a Boy Scout troop. We can't afford to pay the shelter reservation fee to have our meetings there. And they still were like, we'll be willing to do all this stuff if we can not have to pay for it. And they came back, there's a couple of us that have children and Girl Scouts, and we're starting to say, okay, but what about the Girl Scout troops? What about other Boy Scout troops? And then it kind of like snowballed. What about other nonprofits who kind of come and want to have, oh, we'll do this for the city if you give us this rental. So we actually created the shelter reservation fee and the meeting fee to kind of accommodate those nonprofits that, like a Boy Scout or Girl Scout troops, they don't have a ton of money to be able to find, if they're not going to be given space at like a school or the library for meetings, they have to find someplace. And it wasn't for very many meetings a year. I think it was like a total of 3 or so meetings a year that was it, mostly during the summer. So that's when the the nonprofit rate came into existence. Because like I said, prior to that, it didn't. So, but Kyle, you're kind of indicating that few, if any, groups have ever used the meeting rate of $15.
No, and I don't, maybe it's because we don't have it promoted
Mhm.
or it's not correctly in, like, understood in all the staffing transition that we've had. When I came in, I couldn't even find that policy until I hunted for the meeting, like for this conversation. So I didn't
Okay.
even know where that $75 came up with or from. So but we have not had the $15 meeting one. We have just been really evaluating our costs for rentals, and our cost for like designating, space in our public park system, right? For groups and what it costs for, utilities, staffing, our registration system, just kind of all of those direct and indirect costs that we have related to reservations. And this is definitely more of that individualized or that that kind of smaller. It's a large scale service that we provide, but it is for one group at a time kind of thing. It's not as open space. I am looking at trying to cover the cost of our rentals at a higher percentage. And then I did send out to numerous directors throughout the entire state to kind of get back what they do for 501c3 groups, because nothing's listed on people's websites all the time. You have to do like a request or ask for that. There are several of them that do not provide a nonprofit rate that's just resident or non-resident. Some of them do have a different charge Monday through Thursday. So that was something I had considered is maybe a Monday through Thursday 50% off, or there was something else in here about how if they do the resident rate and the non-resident rate. Wanakee does this resident rate and non-resident rate, that's the fee. And then if you are a Middleton, City of Middleton group, 501c3 or civic group, that you would then, if you were providing a free event open to the community to attend, such as the Historical Society on a Wednesday night for Pie Social, or the Pie Social they do for the entire community to attend free, they would be able to have an opportunity to come to the board and get approval to have a fee, or to have no fee. But I don't know if we want groups coming to the board every 2 weeks, asking for a fee waiver. Those were just some of the things that I've seen. I was more amenable to something different Monday through Thursday. But I really am not amendable or not recommending anything for groups that their 501c3 address that isn't in the city of Middleton. They don't directly serve the city of Middleton, that they would then be a non-resident at the non-resident rate.
I
Yep.
think you're hitting it on the head with, are you in the city of Middleton or not? Because this is all city things, you know, so
Mhm.
I think just keep chasing that down the way. And I think the Monday through Thursday is awesome, you know, because you're not going to be as high demand. So again, like a hotel, you pay more on the weekends. So, you know, you're running a business, you're running the city, which we have to pay for what we are providing. Just, that's my 2 cents.
Couple questions. You said,
Mhm.
what, do you know when the last time it was updated? I mean, was it $75 when you implemented, or has it been?
It was, yeah, when we implemented it, yeah. And part of the discussion I remember we got into was, so if somebody wants it for an hour and a half in an evening for a meeting, do you have to then reserve it the whole day? Because, and, you know, because when somebody reserves a shelter, they have it for the whole day, is that correct?
Yeah, and I am not gonna get into our rentals at
Yeah,
all,
right.
because we don't have the staff or capacity to change over a facility. So we only offer day rentals,
Mhm.
because we have to make sure we prep and then we would spend a lot of resources on doing it at different hourly rates.
Yeah, and I think that's why we kind of narrowed it down to the meeting spaces at the Middleton Station and the small shelter at Lakeview, because they're not big spaces that people rent out really anyways. And then I do remember also we said to them, you can still have your meetings at the parks, just if somebody's using the shelter, you can't have it at the shelter, but you can still utilize the park for a meeting, so and hearing that no one has ever really done that meeting rate, I'd be very, very comfortable saying we're just gonna ditch that and see how that all shakes out. Now, one question I have is of shelter rentals. Do you have any idea how many of them have used, or how many nonprofit groups have come in and rented any of the shelters at that $75 rate?
Yep, I did a full spreadsheet, which of all the groups that we've had rent out for this year and last year, and almost at least 80% of them are non-resident, and they're getting 75%. Not saying they don't do great things for our community, like one of the groups is from Madison, and they fundraise for the high school lacrosse team or something of that nature. They do stuff for Middleton, but it doesn't, our costs that we have doesn't help directly support our department operations in that facility space. But the kind of I don't know if you want me to elaborate more on that, but we do have some groups and I don't understand where this came from, but the Friends of Pheasant Branch had told me they were grandfathered in, and they don't have to pay a fee. And I was trying to find a policy, and I wanted to establish a policy moving forward that was for everyone. And I just didn't have something either way. So I'm coming here tonight to try to get a policy that everybody is under the same model. But that I can't, I've asked for documentation on that policy or where that came from, and there's nothing.
You asked Hans Hilbert for.
I have asked their board. They're like, yeah,
I think Hans would. Oh, okay.
he would, yeah,
He should know.
they did.
Can I just have you really clear this up for me?
Yep.
We're talking about a $75 thing, and then I'm seeing this $300 thing. Are these two different things that we're
So-
talking about?
It is a little confusing.
Or
I
are
should've
we
put it-
talking about, so you're saying 50% off of this
So right,
for somebody using, for a nonprofit using the park shelter for a meeting? Is that what we're saying?
so if any group wants to use it for a special event, meeting, their end of year party or a fundraiser event, whatever it is, if it's Middleton or someone from, or if it's a Middleton group like the Optimist Club,
Yeah.
or if it's some 501c3, the Alzheimer's
Okay.
Association,
Okay.
they get every single shelter, if they're resident or non-resident, everyone is $75 flat, all the way down.
Why?
Cause that is the policy. That's the policy that was adopted by the board.
Mhm.
And.
But are you saying skip that?
No, then there's a separate one
And
that
there-
if somebody
Yeah.
wanted a meeting,
And so that, okay.
yeah,
So then the $75 just for all that, but then if somebody wanted to have a meeting, and this I just found out like last week,
The
but
$15 for the
if
two
somebody
little
wanted
things.
Lakeview Small Shelter, which I don't even like renting out because it's not in a great state, and then but we do rent that one out. It would be $15 for a group for club meeting night.
Mhm.
And then if they wanted to rent out, which we don't rent this one out, it's Middleton Station, which is right down the road here. We
Mhm.
don't rent that one out. I didn't know we did a meeting, but we have a meeting for $15 an hour there. So two shelters that are opportunities to do that. We have not been doing that under when I've been here, but it might have been a thing for a year or two. it sounds like, but
Okay,
that policy was adopted, I believe, in 2017
all right, that sounds like a
or.
thing to
not-
get
It'd
rid
been probably
of.
about 19 or early,
Okay.
well, yeah, probably about 2019.
Okay,
Sounds like a thing to get rid of. But are you covering your costs, utilities, blah, 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 at $75?
oh, definitely not. We probably.
So
no.
why don't we do this idea of this chart at 50% off Monday through Friday for those meetings,
Through Friday or Thursday.
or Monday through Thursday?
We could definitely, I would
And
be.
simplify it.
I would be amendable to a lower rate Monday through Thursday. I really want to keep to the structure for Friday, Saturday, Sunday of these fees, because these fees aren't even covering all of our operational
Yeah,
costs.
so for example, some Boy Scout troop, blah, blah, comes in and they want Lakeview and they're a resident and they want to have a meeting, $100.
Monday through Thursday.
So skip this whole other
Mhm.
schedule thing? And do you think that 50% of the 100 or the 200 is enough to cover your costs?
I would have to do a little bit more evaluation, but
But it's better.
it's better than what's happening right now.
Doesn't it just sound simpler?
That or just keep, or and it would be only for city of Middleton groups. Like I would like that to be like non-city groups. So anything 501c3, like there's a Ukrainian festival that they like have at Lakeview Park. The Ukrainian club, their 501c3 is attached to Mates-O-Mania, and that would be then non-resident rate.
Yeah.
If that's
Yep.
clarifying.
Did you say that population you were just explaining is 80% of current fees, or was that something different you were talking about?
What?
80% of the people are non-residents.
Oh,
that are-
like, yes, so I would say that there's a very large portion that's the non-resident. It would also like help our office. We wouldn't have to do all of the extra paperwork for
Heck
the
yeah.
501c3, so it would just be for the
Stop, yeah.
city groups. And then we could check them like one time and have them in our system.
Mhm.
It's
I like what Katie's recommended.
And you can see where the LLC is, or the, not-for-profit is registered, so that
Yep.
really simplifies them all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And does it have to be 50%? Maybe they get a 25% discount and they're excited anyway.
That's up to you guys. I think there's definitely room for flexibility on the Monday through Thursday, just getting it there. I think trying to but 25-50%, I don't know what you guys all feel comfortable with. And or if it's, yeah, I don't know that's probably the simplest, because I was like, also if it's free to the community, maybe, but everybody could then come in and say like, the event's free and open to the community. Like they,
Don't go there.
I don't know if
No.
that
Don't
might,
go there.
No,
okay. That-
Simple.
So the recommendation would be to approve a resident, non-resident rate. Or approve a resident, non-resident rate for Sunday. Oh my gosh, you guys,
So City of
someone else
Middleton,
do it.
Do you need action? You need an action?
I would like it so I can adopt it as a policy, because some of these groups might not be in favor of change.
Too bad.
I need the board support. Was that funny? I thought that
Yes,
was
it
just-
was, because it's obvious that they won't be. So is 50% too much
What?
of a discount?
Yeah.
What would you propose?
25.
for Monday through Thursday.
Mhm.
Monday through Thursday. Okay, that was
Peter's
great.
gonna die.
No, she's okay for a little bit.
I was going to suggest a little steeper discount, but I can live with 25%. You making a motion?
And the discount, the non-residents don't get a discount at all?
No, that's my recommendation, but you guys can talk about that a little bit more. I think that any non-resident group that's an easy way to, otherwise we would take in every single group at a discount, and I don't know where you cut that off, but it's an easy way to look at their 501(c)(3) register, where they're registered to.
What about giving giving them the resident rate as the discount?
For who?
Wait, say that again?
Giving them
Giving who?
the charitable groups a discount of going from non-resident to resident.
From Monday through Thursday?
Monday
No,
through Thursday.
No.
Kylie's saying no discount for non-residents ever.
Mhm.
Oh,
If
They're
that's
already
like
getting the
80%,
discount. They're already getting,
though.
what?
if that's like 80% of who's renting it, then will they go somewhere else?
That, I mean, we have a very, very low cost for rentable spaces in our parks. And I'm just looking at utilities and the shelter cost, not the entire parking lot, like all the experience that you get from coming to a park facility that we have. So I think there's a lot more cost in there than
Yeah.
what this is. I think $300 is lower than any other place that they probably could find to run or host an event. Just taking a look at other private rentable spaces in the community. And this is also a way for us, I think rentals are, should be more of a revenue producer than, some of our programs that we're learning are, teaching youth how to experience basketball or some of the sports that they're trying to learn for their very first time, or swim lessons, where that should be affordable. This should be covering more costs to help subsidize for some of the other
Mhm.
programming that we offer.
So without knowing what your break even is on utilities, I'm going to propose any resident group 501(c)(3) could rent a facility Monday through Thursday at 25% off.
That work for you?
It's gonna die.
My computer. Is this a plug? This looks like a plug. I'm sorry, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't do this.
It's a plug.
I don't even know where that came from. I think that, providing a discount through the week as a positive thing for a lot of the groups. Right now, mostly the Lakeview Indoor won't be available because that's basically our rec center for all programming. But Lakeview Outdoor and a lot of our other spaces will be available. We have a huge big, for Lakeview and, that space, because of the size. We get people, renting that space out Monday through Sunday all weekend. So I think a 25%, I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with.
Okay.
Comfortable with that.
Just one question. If 80% of your revenue is coming through that, and this will be a significant increase, which I don't disagree with. Do you think there is a chance to scare people away? And if that is the case, is it better to have it not rented than rented at this higher rate? And do people usually reserve pretty far in advance so you can see if it's reserved, or would you have time, like, if you get closer to say, okay, well, either it's gonna sit empty, or which maybe adds complication that isn't necessary, but.
Most of our groups rent out Lakeview on the weekend, Friday through Sunday. And some of them rent out during the week, like for weekly events, but most of them rent out for the weekend. And most of it's Lakeview. And if we had that open, I guarantee that we'll have a resident, non-resident rent out the shelter for another family event or community. I don't think we'll have problem filling that space, or those spaces.
Any other input? So
We still don't have a second.
Say, is the
do we?
motion
don't have a
still on the
motion.
floor?
We have a motion. yet.
I
we don't have a
did.
mo-
No, you
I
didn't.
did.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
you
I didn't
didn't. You
hear the
said you
official motion.
propose.
Oh, my.
Make it a motion.
I move that any city resident nonprofits can rent the park shelters Monday through Thursday at 25% off.
I was second your motion.
Right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Now, do we need to have a second motion to update the whole policy to reflect that? Or is it
To take away the $75
to take away the
thing
$75?
and the $15
Yeah.
thingy.
That might be good.
I
Like, if
move-
we're here already.
Mhm.
I move to remove the $75 and $15 prior policy.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, liaison reports. Trying to think of the last planning commission meeting actually wasn't, it was just a couple weeks ago. I think the biggest thing we discussed was defining building heights in our new zoning code. We're still kind of going through some of the, figuring out what's been working, what hasn't been working with the new zoning code and just trying to clean things up a little bit. So there was definitely some robust conversation about what would define a building height. How do you measure
Leaning
it?
Towards dimensions rather than stories.
Partially. And also, where do you take the measurement?
Exactly, exactly.
So those are the, and I don't think we came up to with a very strong conclusion on that one at the end of that last meeting, but
Yeah, I've got a story on that one.
so we do meet again tomorrow night. So, all right, Conservancy Lands.
Conservancy lands, the one thing that is kind of germane to the parks is that we have this general services agreement with adaptive restoration. And it sounds like maybe we can have small jobs contracted out with them rather easily now. And we may possibly need them for some things in parks, maybe.
Mhm.
That's all.
All right. Community campus.
We had someone come tell us about different buildings, mechanical and electrical, like what they needed updated, but there weren't costs really. It was just like what, most of the buildings need like HVAC updated and like electric boxes. That's as far as it went, I think.
Yeah, it was more of that background on like HVAC, electric, all the utility type pieces of all of the facilities, which are library, city hall, and senior center that they were looking at. So going through that process, yeah, there's a
It was a
lot.
lot, yeah.
So, Yep.
All right, and there's just a couple of really quick announcements before we finally adjourn. Just a reminder that, I think the committee works best when we're all, participating as much as we possibly can. So just opening up that participation to the whole group. And so we can all kind of hear what everybody has to think and what everybody has to say. So, and then also if you would like anything on the agenda, just email Kylie and I, and we'll see if there is room for it on that agenda. If it won't be, we can put it on a future agenda. What's kind of a good rule of thumb for you to get, to be able to put something on an
I
agenda?
like stuff 2 weeks in advance.
Okay.
I also like to put things on the agenda that need action. It doesn't mean that things won't come on the agenda, like we had 2 presentations that didn't need action. But a recommendation, typically our board is here to recommend things to finance and common council and make policy for the department. So I like to stick to that a little bit more than maybe our CLC group does. So that.
Where we have no actions at all.
So, all right, we have no more agenda items, so I'll declare our meeting adjourned tonight.
Thank you everyone for your
Thank
time.
you all.
Right.